just want answers. That's all we want. I mean, we need to know if we're safe or not right here.
In Assumption Parish, this huge hole has many people living near Bayou Corn shaken.
I feel like I worked, everything I worked for is just going down the drain. We've been concerned since the bubbles. Then they started having tremors. Then we was concerned about that. Now they got a big sinkhole a half a mile from my house.
State and local emergency officials continue to watch this sinkhole for any changes.
The area that has been just disturbed, turned over, trees that were there 2 days ago are no longer there. It looks like just like a slurry of slush.
But people aren't in the clear yet to come home. And Assumption Parish Police Jury President Marty Trish says it could take all weekend before the mandatory evacuation is lifted.
And they can tell us with a high degree of probability that this sinkhole is stable and it will not grow or affect any of the surrounding pipelines or wellheads or the community in itself. We're going to continue to have the evacuation in place.
Neighbors say they don't know how much more they can take.
But just recently they found a problem and all that they don't know how to rectify it. They don't know how to fix it and all.
Want answers, how long this is going to be, what more y'all going to do.
Many residents left wondering what will become of their homes in the long run.
It's very, very worrisome, not only for the immediate time, as to what do they do in the future. Can they expect this in the future?
I'm gonna leave it in the good Lord's hand and hope he's the only one that could maybe do something about it.
In Assumption Parish, Chris Kazanza, NBC 33 News.
On Christmas Day 2003, Shelly Ciano Hernandez and her family were evacuated from the Grand Bayou community in Assumption Parish after a natural gas leak was found coming from an underground natural gas storage dome operated by Gulf South Pipeline and owned by Dow Chemical. Now there are mysterious bubbles rising up out of the swamp near her new home in Bayou Corn. A short boat ride away, bubbles of all sizes are visible on the surface.
I mean, it's scary. The fear of the unknown. We worry for our health, our safety, our homes. I don't want to be displaced again.
Fear of the unknown brought residents out Thursday looking for answers from parish officials, the Department of Environmental Quality, and the Department of Natural Resources. Answers were in short supply.
For a month now, 24/7, 7 days a week, natural gas is going up in the air. The people here are just really concerned because the answers are still just we don't know. And to me, after a month, we don't know is not good enough.
Originally, parish officials suspected a pipeline leak back when the first report was filed in May of this year. Now, salt dome caverns storing natural gas has been added to the list of possible sources. But there are also other strange occurrences worrying Assumption Parish residents.
And my mobile home, for about a month and a half now, I've been feeling it a lot. All times of the day, all times of the night. It wakes me up some nights, rumble in my bed.
It hasn't been determined yet if the two are related.
We are monitoring every day, twice a day, to make sure that what's bubbling as well as what's here, there's no explosive elements in the air that would harm anyone. So we continue to do that each day, as well as we are going to set out some additional monitoring tomorrow to actually monitor throughout the night as well.
Samples have been taken and have been sent off for testing, which will take a few weeks. Officials say that as of now, there's no threat to public health, but Shelley begs to differ.
My grandmother died of cancer. My oldest brother passed away at 36 years old. My mom had 7 children. None of us can conceive. I mean, infertility, cancer. My mom died of cancer. My brother was diagnosed with the same type of cancer. I had cancer. Not only us, just about 90% of the community or more.
If anyone has information on bubbling locations or a potential origin of the gas, please contact the Assumption Parish Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness at 985-369-7386. In Assumption Parish, Leanna Mar Davila, HTV 10.
I'm a Jew, he a Jew, she a Jew, we some Jews. Wouldn't you like to be a Jew too? Only if you're in the bloodline.
They do not want you to think too much.
Hi, this is Sheila Aliens. Today is August 18th, 2012. This is a story that posted on the 16th. A Louisiana boat disappears into the sinkhole. Workers rescued. A 400-foot deep sinkhole in Louisiana is expanding and today swallowed the boat of 2 cleanup workers who had to be rescued from the hole. Officials are still fearful of the possibility of explosions from nearby gas-filled caverns. The 2 workers were in a boat tied to a tree when the area where the tree grew fell into the sinkhole, but their boat disappeared into the freaking sinkhole. Last week, most residents decided to stay in their homes, but as of the 16th, 60% of those people said, okay, we're gonna get out of here now. Suspiciously enough, as this is all going on, the secretary of the Department of Natural Resources there in Louisiana resigned in early August as all of this is unfolding. There's a similar story from 1980. Basically, a very similar situation happened in Louisiana, and it's called the Lake Peigneur Sinkhole Disaster of 1980. I suggest you watch this little 10-minute video if you're interested to see what could possibly happen with Assumption Parish, and this isn't even including the possibility of explosions on top of the regular sinkhole draining everything. So everybody's receiving financial assistance from Texas Brine, thankfully. They began drilling the relief well last night, and I will keep you updated on this, and we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching.
Some financial relief came today for sinkhole-stricken Assumption Parish residents. Households under evacuation orders got $875 today. With each week, they will also get it until they get back to their homes. WA's Jim Shannon has the story from Pierre Park.
Displaced residents of Bayou Corn have traveled south to Pierre Park to pick up a check for $875, courtesy of the Texas Brine Company. A check that Texas Brine officials refer to as assistance. Dozens of Bayou Corn residents packed the Assumption Parish Sheriff's substation. So residents were getting checks back home. 20 more square feet of land slipped into the sinkhole. That's twice in 2 days.
This morning, investigation revealed that an additional 20 feet on the east side of the sinkhole did slough in, similar to what happened yesterday.
Texas Brine is planning on starting the observation well drilling tonight. Trish says some people may hear noise and vibrations coming from the well site.
Between 7 p.m. and 12 p.m. tonight, that they should start driving casing. So the local residents may hear the noise of the casing being driven, as well as have some vibration. But that is totally expected.
Jim Shannon, WAFB 9.
Cost system. If you are going to control any population for any length of time, you must bring in an element of getting people to consent to what is happening to us.
The society is developing more and more in the direction of a thought police that control every thought we have.
Thought y'all might be interested in this. I'm at the Home Depot in Panama City, Florida, and I want to show you something. See this whole row back here? These are all generators, and they all say New Orleans generators. I've been coming to this store for many years. I've never seen anything like this. New Orleans. New Orleans. New Orleans. And by the way, I was in here yesterday morning, and these were not here yesterday morning. New Orleans. Don't know if this has anything to do with that sinkhole out there in Louisiana or not, but that's a whole lot of generators right there. Here's the back side. Panama City, Florida. Like I said, I was in this store yesterday morning on Friday. This is Saturday morning. And these things were not here at all. Seems kind of odd to me.
Hey everybody, Dutch Sense here. 1:55 a.m. Central Time on Saturday, August 11th, 2012. And we're over here on my Facebook page. I want to go ahead and show you guys an article here from CNN, and it has to do with the Louisiana sinkhole. If you don't know what's going on, guys, I got to bring you up to speed first of all. A few weeks ago, a series of strange geyser-like bubbles were erupting from the bayou down in a place called Bayou Corn, Louisiana, in south central Louisiana. And people there reported it to officials, and officials said they didn't know what was going on. It could be a gas line rupture, and they basically said, don't worry about it. Well, you move forward a little bit, a week or so, almost 2 weeks, and a massive sinkhole has opened in the same area. Okay? What they did then was evacuate all the people in the area and have told them they can't come back to their houses until they figure out what's going on. All right? And that kind of brings us forward to today. They are being told they don't know what's going on. All right, the officials don't know what's going on. And I want to thank Sheila Alien's video maker here on YouTube for getting this video out of the mainstream media down here in Louisiana talking about the whole story. And locals are demanding answers and not getting any. They're getting talking heads that are basically telling them they don't know what's happening. We're going to have to wait to see. People are still going to be evacuated for a little bit. Okay, the mainline story that we always get from officials. Okay, so here's a shot of the actual sinkhole that's developed, and I want to bring you forward just a little bit in the video here to this. All right, now what they're talking about here is radiation in the sinkhole. What they actually did, and they explain it in here somewhat, which is they actually filled up what's called a salt dome. Geologic structures under the ground called salt domes, and they're huge. And they're just like they sound, they're full of hard rock salt-like material that's able to be liquefied or cleared out with liquids to form a cavity. And then you can pump, they are pumping oil, natural gas, and other materials down into these salt domes for long-term storage. And we're talking millions and millions of barrels, not gallons, barrels of these petroleum products being stored down in these salt domes. Now you're probably wondering, where are they? Well, let me just bring you over to Google Earth here. Okay, we're going to go down to the Gulf Coast, and here's Bayou Corn. I just searched it on Google Earth, and this is what came back, so it's somewhere right in here. And let me just show you an example of a salt dome. All right, here we go. These are out to sea, along the sea floor, off the coast of Mississippi and Alabama and Louisiana. And there they are, okay? These are the tops of the salt domes that extend off the sea floor. Now, there's several more that go inland. They're actually, I believe, mostly pumping in, filling these. They're not taking out too much. I believe they're filling them, and that's what they talk about when they talk about the strategic oil reserve. They are strategically placing that deep in the earth in these salt domes. Okay? Now, let me take you over to my Facebook page here. Now, the Assumption Parish Sheriff, Mike Wogsapak, said Thursday he is concerned about the sinkhole is close to a well containing 1.5 million barrels of liquid butane, a highly volatile liquid that turns into a highly flammable vapor upon release. And, quote the sheriff, a breach of that well, he said, could be catastrophic. Let me take you back over to the Google image. Imagine this cleared out and stored with liquid butane. Okay? Now imagine next to that liquid butane salt dome, there's another salt dome. They occur in succession, just like you'd see here, in a cluster. All right? You're not just going to have one lone salt dome. You're going to have a cluster of. If that butane releases, if this is anywhere close, if this sinkhole is anywhere close to another salt dome full of liquid butane, we have a huge problem in development now. Now, all that bubble off, of course, could be liquid butane. It could also be what was left in that sinkhole of radioactive debris before it collapsed. So, overall, what is causing this, you're probably asking. If you're from Louisiana and you don't watch my videos ever, you probably have no idea what is causing this. So let me just show you, okay? Now this is USGS feed of the most recent earthquakes. I have it turned down over the last 12 hours. Let's look over the last 7 days. And you'll see a series of earthquakes marked across North America. Now we have our typical West Coast earthquakes, which are picking up in intensity off the West Coast from South Central California, going right off the coast of Oregon up here in a fresh lava field that is formed off the coast of Oregon. But you'll see a series of earthquakes that extend from the Pacific Northwest down through Yellowstone, a 3.2, and then going down through Colorado and Texas, and then you'll see another one up here to the northeast. Now, keep in mind, this is just the last 7 days. Now, if you were to connect all these dots, this forms the edge of what's called the North American craton. The craton is the unsubducted plate that exists up here to the north, relatively unmoved over a long period of time. And then you have the deformed edge of the craton that extends out to the sea. And that goes all the way down here through Louisiana and back up here along the East Coast. But when you connect these all, this shows that there is movement occurring along the edge of the craton. The craton itself is being pushed from the west. The subduction process, pushing underneath, pushing to the east, is creating stress. And unfortunately, a lot of these locations, for instance, down here at the Colorado-New Mexico border, down here in Oklahoma, also down here in Texas, you can't see it on this map, but a series of earthquakes have occurred, all at fracking or drilling or deep earth injection well operations. Why? Because, let me back this out, of what's occurring to the west. In the West Pacific, we have 4, 5, and 6.0 earthquakes occurring in succession every day, and this is just the last 7 days, a huge amount of movement. And it's spilling over to Europe, and it's spilling across up over Alaska, and you can see the spillover effect, the pressure that's building on the North American craton itself due to all the other earthquakes over here to the west. The compensation movement is going to occur. It has to. The Pacific plate is moving. So that's going to create stress at man-made drilling operations, dormant volcanoes, and that's where we're seeing a lot of earthquakes on the west coast, going up the west coast and in the southwest are dormant volcano locations, but that's a whole other video we need to get into there. We're solely looking at man-made drilling right now, and this shows it. Drilling operations, and now the Louisiana salt domes are experiencing the pressure. Now imagine, just for instance, that pressure comes in from the west, or from above, or from below. It could easily create a crack in the salt dome, which would then, over time, fairly quickly, if you release the right amount of gas, cause a massive sinkhole. And that's what all the bubbles were originally, were the bubbles coming out before the sinkhole fully formed. And the sinkhole formed on top of a salt dome that was containing radioactive debris. And next to this dome is another dome, per the sheriff, that contains 1.5 million barrels of liquid butane. Do I think that this is going to collapse further to cause the release of the liquid butane? Well, unfortunately, we don't know how far apart those are. We can see naturally occurring, the salt domes occur right next to each other. Literally, sometimes right on top of each other or overlapping each other. So the real question is, from the authorities, is where is this liquid butane, this massive salt dome that's filled with liquid butane? Where is it? How far away is it? Is it right next to it? If it's right next to it, we've got a massive, massive problem on our hands. If it's a few miles away, we might be okay. We might be okay. But even a few miles, you're looking at, it would need to be fairly far away to not experience the pressure that's occurring along the entire edge of the North American craton. And we're going to see it release in areas where it's weakest first. So fracking locations, drilling locations, injection well operations, and unfortunately salt dome operations, which means that we have a big problem down here to the south because there's no way they could ever get all that out. No way. They pumped way too much in just by the sound of it. That's just my own opinion, okay? So there you go, guys. That's what's going on. Now, one other thing I would like to touch on really quick since we got Google Earth and the place marks. all the mystery booms and rumbles up here in the north central portion of the craton. If you imagine the edge of the craton itself, going from the Pacific Northwest, just follow all these yellow place marks down here to the south and back up here to the north, that puts the mystery booms and rumbles pretty much right in the center of the North American craton, if not the center east. And what do all these locations have in common? Well, for instance, North Illinois, at the nuclear power plant here, a radioactive release, a series of mystery booms, and an earthquake recorded. Move forward a few months, radioactive release detected here in North Indiana, mystery booms reported throughout Michigan. And then you get up here to Wisconsin, and you have the Clintonville mystery booms, no nuclear release, but definitely mystery booms reported up here as well. So this is the center of the craton. Now think about it for a second. If you have a large amount of movement happening all along the edge, a series of fairly sizable earthquakes occurring along the edge, you have down here to the south, salt domes collapsing, sinkholes opening. Now, gosh, I mean, I could just keep going on. Another thing that occurred down here in Fort Stockton, Texas. Fort Stockton had a new fault line open, 15 feet deep, several miles long, extending south towards the border. Okay, now, just so happens, down here south of the border, you see this area right here. I put out a video several months ago showing steam plumes erupting from this direct spot, from that volcano. And a series of other spots going all the way down through Mexico and extending up here now into the Pacific Northwest, going up into Nevada. At Mono Lake, California, supervolcano, where in August 2nd, we saw a series of plumes erupt. Now we got the military deployed up here at Hawthorne doing water checks, and to top it all off, we have Colorado shut off aquifer access for no real good reason that I can find. Overall, it's a lot to go through, folks, and if you're just watching one of my videos for the first time, I really feel for you, because I'm trying to explain the best I can without going into a 2-hour-long presentation on Earth changes. And unfortunately, you'd have to understand that we're going through a series of large earthquakes and volcanic eruptions globally. And if you're wondering from your local officials if you're ever going to get an answer as to why, you're going to be waiting a very long time for them to give you an answer as to why this is occurring. What I can tell you is that the pressure is going to continue, and you can pretty much expect further collapse, you can expect further salt dome troubles, and we need to find out how close that butane well is to this sinkhole. That's going to determine everything in the near term, trouble-wise, for Bayou Corn. But overall, we're looking at more salt dome releases in the long term until this activity dies out along the West Pacific. And that just seems to keep on going and going and going. Just look at it. I mean, look at the spillover going over into Europe. I mean, just along the line there, I mean, it's wild. We got a real serious situation going on here, folks. I cannot stress enough to have a plan and be prepared. You know, these people down in Louisiana, they got evacuated at a moment's notice. They couldn't take everything with them, and they can't get back into their houses. And now there's the threat that it could fully explode. I mean fully explode if 1.5 million barrels of liquid butane gets released into the air and it reaches an ignition source outside. You're looking at a massive explosion unlike anything that's ever happened in the United States. Save a nuclear test. Hang in there, folks. Much love.
Other disasters defy prediction and belief. the southern coast of Louisiana, where the water flows everywhere. Shallow lakes full of catfish, broad bayous, canals dotted with shrimp boats, all leading to the Gulf of Mexico. On November 20th, 1980, water would play the key role in one of the strangest and most spectacular engineering disasters ever. This was once the shaft of the Jefferson Island salt mine, where men had been pulling salt out of the earth since 1919. Louisiana's salt lies in gigantic underground domes, some larger than Mount Everest, which are pushed upward by the force of the heavier rock that surrounds them. Part of the Jefferson Island mine is located directly under Lake Peigneur. The mine, which was operated by the Diamond Crystal Salt Company, shared space on Jefferson Island with a lush botanical preserve known as Live Oak Gardens. There's another abundant resource deep under Lake Peigneur, one frequently found in pockets near salt domes. It's as black as the salt is white.
That salt moves upward and it pierces through surrounding strata, sands, clays, and limestones. And this piercing produces faults and folds within these surrounding sediments, producing an ideal mechanism to trap oil.
So it was hardly surprising that Texaco was conducting exploratory drilling close to the Jefferson Island salt mine in November of 1980. On November 20th, the two delicate underground and underwater operations, drilling oil and mining salt, collided in spectacular fashion.
Well, it was a typical day in November the 20th, 1980. A nice, cool, crisp day, clear skies. People were fishing out on the lake, as they usually do. The mine was in full operation.
But in the pre-dawn hours, the oil drilling crew on Lake Peigneur had run into a problem.
At 500 or 600 feet, they hit salt. And they were not supposed to hit salt for another couple of hundred feet.
The drill bit became stuck. The crew heard strange popping sounds. The oil rig tilted badly to one side.
And at that point in time, the drillers recognized that they had a fairly serious problem on their hands.
What they didn't realize is the 14-inch drill bit had punctured the roof of the salt mine at the 1,300-foot level, creating a funnel for Lake Peigneur to drain into. It was apparently the result of a simple miscalculation.
It seems that there was an engineering error in the location of the Texaco well. They used a form of triangulation for determining the location, and one of the points they used for triangulating was in error. And consequently, it rotated the location of the borehole about 400 feet closer to the main mine than it should have been.
90 minutes after the drill became stuck, the drilling crew, who had wisely abandoned the tilting rig, watched in amazement from the shore as their 150-foot derrick disappeared into a lake that was less than 10 feet deep. Meanwhile, 1,300 feet below the surface of Lake Peigneur, diamond crystal miners, who had not been alerted to a problem, looked up to see something you should never see in a salt mine: water.
Water flowing through salt tends to dissolve the salt. As you increase the volume of water, you increase the volume of salt that can be dissolved.
Soon it was clear. Lake Peigneur was draining through the hole bored by the drill bit and into the salt mine. As the 2.5 billion gallons of Lake Peigneur surged into the mine with 10 times the pressure of a fire hydrant, a mighty whirlpool was forming on the surface. Remarkably, thanks to well-rehearsed evacuation drills and the heroics of several miners, all 55 people in the mine managed to get out. But back on the surface, the chaos was just beginning.
The whirlpool is basically a vortex of water and mud that is flowing down into a fairly confined space. And that whirlpool is basically flowing downwards under the force of gravity, pulling sediment and other materials down with it.
The whirlpool sucking force pulled heavy-duty barges toward it as their crews leapt for safety. Men watched with jaws agape as 11 barges and a tugboat disappeared into the vortex. Those are 4 fully loaded flatbed trucks spinning helplessly in the whirlpool. Enter Leonce Viator Jr., who had simply wanted to catch some fish that day.
I was crazy enough to be on the lake November the 20th, 1980. So I asked my nephew to come with me on the boat, and we're going to go catch some catfish. We went. We're going to go and try our luck.
But as luck would have it that day, Viator soon found himself and his 14-foot boat being yanked toward the whirlpool and certain death.
When we got further down on the lake, I spotted something, an eye in the ground. To me, it measured 100 feet in diameter. And there was a lot of barges all glued to it. I didn't know what was happening.
When a barge that was blocking the way was sucked into the hole, it gave Viator a narrow path to skirt the maelstrom. He gunned the motor and reached the shore with seconds to spare. Viator then tied his boat to a tree.
When I looked like this, I seen my boat that I had tied to the tree, and there it was going into the whirlpool. So that's the last thing I've seen, my boat tied up to the tree going into the hole.
By that point, the whirlpool was sucking down Jefferson Island itself. Before evening, 65 acres of land, including much of Live Oak Gardens, would end up at the bottom of the mine. 150-year-old trees were snapped in half.
There were pecan trees that were 150 feet tall down here in this woods, and to stand there and watch them drop completely out of sight was, yeah.
Along the shoreline, along the Live Oak Gardens and the Jefferson Island Mansion, you're basically seeing what are called landslides, where the ground is actually shearing and breaking apart, and gravity's pulling these blocks down into the hole.
Look at this over here, look! Look at that. Wow, look at this.
That house that we were standing on, all you see now is a chimney. The house sank about 30 feet.
Could things get worse? Yes. Delcombe Canal, which normally flowed away from Lake Peigneur and into the Gulf of Mexico, actually reversed direction under the intense sucking power of the whirlpool. As the water rushed into the now nearly empty lakebed, it formed a 150-foot waterfall, the highest ever in Louisiana.
Well, that's the only time the Gulf of Mexico flowed north, basically. So that's a lot of water to fill up that hole.
As the water rushed into the mine, its rapid displacement of the underground caverns shot a deafening blast of compressed air, and later, a 400-foot geyser up from the mine shaft.
To see something like this, it was terrible, really. I thought it was the end of the world.
It took 2 days for the canal's water to fill up the mine in Lake Peigneur. When the water pressure equalized, 9 of the 11 sunk barges popped up like corks in a bathtub. The drilling operation and the underground salt mine were complete losses. The cause of the disaster was never officially determined, since all the evidence was at the bottom of a 1,500-foot water-filled salt mine. But there's no definitive evidence that the mine itself was structurally unsound. The culprit was most likely a 14-inch wide drill bit. This engineering disaster did have at least one positive effect. It made Lake Peigneur a little more interesting.
It's a shallow lake, and now we have part of it that's a deep lake. So it's changed the type of fish that live in the lake, and we catch redfish and saltwater species that were not very prevalent here before.
But not everyone is planning a fishing trip to Lake Peigneur.
What I went through and got out of there alive, I don't care for it, really. I prefer buying my fish.
It can hardly be said that the Jefferson Island disaster had a happy ending. The loss to livelihoods and cherished property was devastating. Yet the fact that no human beings perished was fortunate indeed. For if there's one lesson to take from this strange engineering disaster, it's that a small mistake can have huge consequences.
Please don't tase me, bro. I'm an old man. I got a heart condition.
In the wake
Yo, goat mouth ass.
Hey, what up with it? It's your boy O to the D, aka Knowledge General of the Jews. Bring you some more information on this dee-talk elite. I guess the October surprise that been talked about. I'm thinking it's gonna have something to do with that sinkhole in New Orleans. It's getting bigger and bigger. You know that sinkhole out there in Louisiana. I don't know. It's out there somewhere. You know what I'm saying? And well, the sinkhole in Louisiana is like it's getting bigger. You know, it's like a football field size, and it's getting bigger, and it's like a 400 feet something hole, and it's sucking stuff into it. You know what I'm saying? But the media is not talking about this. Nobody's talking about this. People that stay out there in that area wasn't gonna move, but now they decided to move because it's like growing, and they're not talking about it. At this Home Depot in where you say he was? I want to make sure I get this right. Florida, Panama, Florida. They got all these generators. They got New Orleans on the generator things. They wrapped up, and then on the front of the package you got New Orleans, like New Orleans generator. And why do they have all these generators ready and prepared to go to New Orleans if it's not supposed to be no problems out there, you know? But it's about to be something that's gonna happen out there, and I'm thinking it has something to do with that sinkhole. I think that sinkhole is gonna get bigger. Like, I think that sinkhole was man-made. Like, they probably made that sinkhole. You know, and then they got oil shooting out of it. I forgot to say that part. It's oil shooting at the sinkhole. So, you know, it's pretty wicked, man. Like, they can catch on fire, and it'll be all bad. But, everybody stay out in Louisiana. Pay attention to what they doing to y'all out there, man. You know, the media should be covering this better than I'm covering it. They should be on News Channel 4, 5, 12, 10, whatever channel you got in your city, it should be there. Everybody should know about this, but they don't because they're keeping it a secret. And when I say October surprise, I mean, it's been told that something's going to happen either in October, towards the beginning of October or towards the end of October. It was going to be an October surprise. It was going to be bad enough that it was going to make America want to keep the president we got. You know, at least let him make some more decisions before he leave, if he do leave. So, I mean, it's really to ensure that he wins. You know, the October surprise, and he's going to help a lot of people. And you can already almost see it right now. Like, they give him like $800 and something every week. That's a lot of money, you know? That's a lot of money. When y'all can just figure out what's going on with the sinkhole, fill it up or something, you know, dirt or something, y'all can fill it up, but you can't do that. Like, I don't get it. I'm not understanding what's going on. I don't know, I guess I had to finish this one with Junior in the background. But, they wouldn't have all that for no reason, you know, and if he helped a lot of people, it might make more people want to vote for Obama and keep him in office. So, I mean, $800 or something a week is a lot of money, but I guess it really ain't a lot of money when due to the circumstances of what they're going through. But why do they have to keep doing stuff in Louisiana all the time? Like, it's getting old. It's getting real old, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's always Louisiana. Like, that's where they always hitting. That's where they always doing stuff. That's where they killing a lot of black people at. All the time. Do the math on it, man. You know, we the most hated people out of them all. It's black people. They hate to do anything for us. And I'm not even going to say black people. I'm going to say brown people. And mostly Hebrews. You know what I'm saying? Predominantly Hebrews. They can't stand us, you know. But that goes back to the Bible. It goes back to biblical prophecy. That goes back to all of that. But most people don't know that because you don't connect the truth with the Bible. See, that's why I'm a little better at this, because I connect truth with the Bible. And we're supposed to go by fire. And this is a sinkhole that is spewing oil. Remember last time we had oil inside of a substance. They decided to burn it out. What makes you think, what happens if they try to burn out the oil in this sinkhole? And it catches a whole lot of stuff on fire. And it's just a crazy wildfire. You know? It could be something like that. But it's not. I mean, bottom line is, it wouldn't have all these generators and have all this stuff set up if they wasn't getting ready for something to happen. So, you know, October surprise. It's not a surprise anymore. We know what it is. You know. So, it's going down, man. It's your boy, O to the D. I'm signing out, man. And just remember, I do this.
Crazy Crew Entertainment, man. Crew or Die videos and ain't nothing after that. You dig? You beezies?